Hey, hi everyone, I want to welcome you to a new video from runhorse.com sports, and we're going to talk about some excellent slot betting strategies today, and hopefully these strategies will help you win and win more often. So let's get into this. And the first one we're going to talk about is to lower the bet when the machine is not paying and to go up when it is paying. Okay, so let's talk about this. We've all been at a machine that it's just not paying that day, so if it's not paying at this time, it can be prudent to lower your bets for a while and to go on the smaller lines. Normally you have those different options on the machine. You have the lower bet to the higher bet, and you can go ahead and drop down. That's what I would do. When the machine seems to be cold, I seem to drop down, play those lower lines for a while, and then when it does start to pay or it starts to heat up, then I will start to raise up my bet, and that can be profitable. And that's one technique that you can try. So that's a good strategy, and that will be our first tip today on the slot betting strategies. This is slot betting strategy number 2. This will be a similar technique. It's that some days the machine wants to pay on a high line bet, and that other days it wants to pay on a low line bet. There are some machines that they seem to be paying on a certain day. They'll pay on those high line bets. They might want to pay toward that max bet, or they might want to pay on those higher bets. And that say the machine has a 25 cent to a $5 range. Let's go with that. And there's some days if you're playing that 25 cent wager, that 50 cent wager, it's going to be paying. It's going to be hitting a lot, and it's going to be going to the bonus round. And then vice versa, when you play those high line bets, it just doesn't seem to pay that day. And that's the way some of these machines work. Some days they're paying on the high line, and some days they're paying on that low bet. You'll see days where the machine will switch around. So if it's not paying me on the high line bets, I'll either I will lower and try those small line bets. And vice versa, if I'm playing those small bets for a while, those 25 cents, those 50 cent bets, and it's not paying, I will move up to that $2.50 range, 125, and I'll try that for a while. And sometimes that will trigger a bonus, or it will give you a payoff. So that's something to keep in mind, that some days the machine just wants to pay a big amount, and some days it wants to pay small. So that's just the way it works, my friends. And some days neither one is going to work. So if neither one is working, then maybe it's just time to move on to another machine. So that's another slot betting strategy that you can try. This is the slot betting strategy we're going to talk about here, and a lot of people like to play strategies like this. I've heard other people talk about this. They count the number of lines they're playing per whatever bet. They count out the bets, and they'll move accordingly. So you can go ahead with a 1-2-3 system. I've heard this talked about. The 1-2-3 system would be 3 pulls on each line, and then you will move to the next line. So say again, we'll go with that machine that has 5 line bets. It has a 25 cent to a 250. Let's go as an example. So you would start maybe with the 25 cent line, and you would play 1, 2, 3 spins. And then you would move on to the 50 cent line. You would play 1, 2, 3 spins. And you would move all the way up through all the lines, and you would go to the 50 cent line, the 75 cent, the 125, and finally up to the 250 if you want to go and try that, get up to the big line. And sometimes that will cause the machine to trigger something, and moving around, you'll see that a lot. I watch these YouTube videos with these people that are high limit players, and a lot of times they'll switch between lines. You'll see they don't just play the same line. They'll play the top 2 lines, and they'll intermittent between the two. They'll move back and forth. So it's something you can try. And there's another technique. Again, you could go ahead with whatever variation if you want. Some people like to count 5 spins per line. So they might play the 50 cent line. They play it 5 spins, and they move to the 75. They play 5 spins, and they might go back and forth, 50, 75, 125. They might go through all the lines. So these are things that you can try. And maybe they'll switch up your strategy, and these are betting strategies that you can try, and it could cause the machine to pay. So these are things we're always looking for, new strategies and new comments. And if you have a strategy that you think is a good one, please, we appreciate if you share those comments and below at this video. We always appreciate those, and it could be something that would be interesting to make in a future video that I might want to talk about. So that's something we would appreciate. So thank you so much for that. Let's talk about another slot betting strategy here, and that is to play defensive on a tight machine, and that's after a hit. So if the machine does pay, sometimes the machine seems to be really tight and you do get a hit finally, you get a decent hit. So you're playing and you get maybe a $50 hit or you get a $100 hit. I'd say that's a pretty good hit on a tight machine. What I'll do in that case is maybe I'll go 3 to 5 spins at the same betting amount. So if I'm betting in this range, I could be betting say $1 or 75 cents, and all of a sudden I pull about $100 hit, and I'll play maybe 3 to 5 spins at the same betting amount. And if I don't get anything, then I will lower the bet, and that's a defensive play, and that will keep you playing, ladies and gentlemen. And that's what we want to try to do here. We want to try to keep you playing, and the more spins that you have, it will increase your chances for a jackpot. If you give your money to that machine right away, you need to have a lot of spins going to try to get that jackpot, because those jackpots are few and far in between. So if you can fight that machine and you can stay alive, that will increase your chances of getting a jackpot, because it'll just give you more spins, and that's always what you want at a slot machine. You want to have more spin. Betting strategy I'd like to talk about is switching intermittently between line bets, and I did talk about this a little bit before, but I've noticed this a lot on these YouTube videos with people. They like to switch between the lines, and I've had some success on certain machines trying that, and sometimes I like to do it quickly and sometimes I like to do it slowly. So I'll go between that 50 to 75 cents, and I'll go ta 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 50 75 50 75, and you'll actually hear sometimes a little bit of noise in the machine. There'll be like a sound or it's changing lines. You'll hear like the machine gives you a sound. So the machine obviously knows that you're switching the lines, and it's designed to give you some kind of signal, some sound signal. So you'll hear some kind of different beep or something like that sometimes. Switching between those lines, sometimes it's switching up something in the machine, and maybe it's giving you a chance to make a hit there, and maybe that will just trigger that line or that number, that random number at the time to generate a hit. So that's what we're always looking for. And sometimes I'll switch between those lines slower. If it's not working, I'll try quicker. I'll try the 50 75 50 75, and if it's not working, then I'll slow it down. Maybe I'll go 50 75 50 75. So things that you can try, and I've seen some people have some success with that. I've seen a lot of these slot channels that do pretty well. I've seen one called, she calls herself Lady Luck, and I've seen her win quite a few times. So shout out to Lady Luck. She calls herself that, and she's had some pretty good hits that I've seen in some videos, and I've noticed that she always does that. She intermittently switches between those, normally the 2 highest lines, so she'll switch between the 2. So it seems to be successful for her, and she plays a lot of slots. So I have to go ahead and think that that's something that's helping her, because she's not going to just play in the same line over and over. That's something technique that she has come up with. So we hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please like and subscribe to our channel, runhorse.com sports, and you can get more information about slot machines and casino gaming. So best of luck to you at the slot.